Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before starting the video, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and give this video a like up. In the latest Young and Restless preview for the week of December 2 to 6, the Mistress of Disguise is added again. Read on for the details and watch the video below. After confessing to the murder of Heather, which she didn't commit, Sharon did manage to get rid of one person permanently. She said goodbye to the ghost of Cameron, who has been haunting her for weeks. Nick, meanwhile, couldn't help but feel something wasn't adding up and was surprised to learn from Faith that Sharon couldn't have texted Phyllis before her accident as they were together and she didn't have her phone on her. Coming up, Chance tells Nick that Sharon's case is with the DA now. Nick replies, "Yeah, because she confessed. Something about that isn't sitting right with me. Chance, I need your help." Will Nick be able to get to the truth as to who really killed Heather? After taking over Glissade, Jack and Diane learned it was a shell of a company, as Victor gutted it and sold off all the assets before handing it over to Diane. Diane felt Victor got the last laugh again, but Jack wasn't so sure. They also continued to work on their relationship with Kyle, and Diane made inroads with her son when she announced she wouldn't be returning to Jabba as it was time for Kyle to take on that job. Next week, Jack tells Diane, "I have an idea I want you to consider." Could Jack have a way to get even with Victor in mind? Or perhaps a new job for Diane? Nikki and Victor have a lot to be thankful for this year. They had a new ranch home, and Nikki took over Chancellor as the new CEO. Claire thrilled Victor and Nikki by making it a family affair, deciding to work with Nikki. She also managed to steal some time on Thanksgiving to see Kyle and Harrison. And what comes after Thanksgiving? That would be Black Friday. And things could get dark for Claire once again. Coming up, Kyle joins Claire, who asks a disguised Jordan, "I was just asking if we've met before." Jordan replies in a British accent, "I don't think so. Have a nice day." She walks away, leaving Kyle and Claire confused. It was a crisp autumn evening when Kyle and Claire found themselves wandering down a quiet street, their breath misting in the cool air. The leaves crunched underfoot, their fiery hues of orange and red flickering in the streetlights. They had no particular destination, just the aimless kind of walk that accompanies a shared moment of freedom. Claire was talking animatedly, as she often did, about her new art project. Kyle, usually the quiet listener, was nodding along, barely catching the words. His attention was more focused on the peaceful rhythm of their walk. The gentle movement of the trees swaying in the wind, the distant hum of traffic. It was one of those moments that felt timeless, like they were the only two people in the world. That is, until they saw him. A figure across the street caught their attention. At first, it was just the way he stood, his posture strangely stiff, as though he were trying to be inconspicuous, but failing miserably. Then, as they got closer, they noticed his face. But there was something off. The hair was a little too messy, the jacket a little too large, and his eyes, those familiar eyes that had seen them through every high school drama, were hidden behind dark sunglasses, despite the fact that it was nearly dark outside. He was walking briskly, his head turning left and right like he was on high alert, and yet his gait was unnaturally smooth, as though he was trying too hard to appear normal. Kyle squinted, adjusting the strap of his backpack. It looks like him, but that's not right. What's he doing? They slowed their pace, instinctively moving closer, trying to get a better look without being noticed. They stayed in the shadows, out of sight, but their curiosity was overwhelming. There was no mistaking that tall, lean frame, those slightly too long limbs, that unmistakable swagger. But the more they observed, the more something about him didn't feel like Jordan. He had become an enigma, a puzzle they needed to solve. As they followed him from a distance, Jordan, or whoever it was, turned down a narrow alleyway. Kyle hesitated for a second, then glanced at Claire. She gave him a look that said, "I'm in if you are." With that, they crept down the alley after him, staying far enough back that he wouldn't hear them. The alley was darker than the street had been, the shadows long and sharp, and a faint odor of dampness lingered in the air. It was the kind of place you'd only venture into if you had a good reason. The stranger in front of them seemed to know exactly where he was going, moving with a purpose that felt strange to Kyle. Jordan never acted with that kind of urgency. He was always the laid-back one, the guy who would show up late to everything, never rushing anywhere. They moved cautiously, avoiding the scattered debris and broken bottles that littered the ground. The alley twisted and turned, and with every corner they rounded, the sense of unease grew. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the figure stopped. He turned around abruptly, and for a moment, Claire and Kyle froze, afraid they had been spotted, but he didn't seem to notice them. Instead, he pulled off his oversized jacket, revealing a much more fitted hoodie underneath, then took off his sunglasses, revealing, there it was again, those unmistakable eyes. He looked around, checking if anyone was nearby, before he pulled something from his pocket. A small device, black and sleek, was now in his hand. He pressed a button on it, and a soft, mechanical whirring sound filled the air. A light blinked on the device, and for the first time, the mysterious figure looked directly at Claire and Kyle. A cold chill ran through both of them. This wasn't just any random person on the street. This wasn't even a random person in disguise. This was Jordan, but not Jordan. Before either of them could say anything, the figure spoke, his voice muffled, as though speaking through a filter. "I know you two are following me," the voice said, a bit too deep, a bit too distorted to be his usual tone. "Don't bother trying to escape. You're already in it." The figure's lips twisted into something that might have been a smile. Not exactly, but close enough. Claire stepped forward, taking the lead. "What do you mean? What's going on? Why are you? What's with the disguise?" The man, Jordan, or whatever he was now, paused for a moment, considering his response. Then, in one swift motion, he removed the final layer of his disguise, pulling off a wig and a false mustache. His face was slightly different, like a funhouse mirror version of the guy they knew. His features were sharper, his skin paler, almost ghostly in the dim light. There was something unsettling in the way he looked at them, his gaze piercing, cold, far removed from the playful and goofy guy they used to know. "You don't recognize me, do you?" Jordan's voice was back to its normal tone, but it lacked the warmth that it used to carry. "You see, I've been keeping something from you too. I've been doing more than just hanging out, more than just the usual shenanigans. I've been involved in things you wouldn't believe." Kyle was still frozen, Claire's mind racing, trying to piece together what was happening. This wasn't a joke. This wasn't some prank. "Things?" Claire asked, her voice rising in confusion. "What are you talking about?" Jordan, or the other Jordan, smiled again, but there was no warmth in it. He stepped closer to them, his presence suddenly imposing. "I'm not just some guy who hangs out with you. I've been part of something bigger. And now, I need you too. You're already involved, whether you like it or not." The weight of his words hit Kyle like a ton of bricks. Involved in what? Jordan's smile widened, the darkness in his eyes deepening. "I'm afraid that's something you'll have to figure out on your own. But trust me, you're already part of this game. And it's too late to back out now." As he spoke, the air around them seemed to shift, thickening with a sense of foreboding. Kyle and Claire exchanged a glance, realizing that the ordinary, laid-back friend they had once known was now someone entirely different. And as they looked at the figure before them, the world suddenly felt a lot smaller, as if they were standing on the edge of a cliff, about to fall into the unknown.